Welcome to Close the Door and Come Here, a Song of Ice and Fire podcast with heavy leanings towards our two favorite characters, Jaime and Brienne. Hi, everyone. I'm Kama, and you can find me at Kama's Place on Blue Sky Social. And today I'm joined by Clotho.
Hi, I'm Clotho, and you can find me at Clotho Spindle on Blue Sky.
And Chicky.
Hey, I am Chicky on Blue Sky.
So today we will be covering Tyrion VI from A Dance with Dragons. If you are new to the podcast, we will spoil everything, books, and potentially show. And trigger warning for rape and violence, because it's Tyrion, general grossness.
Yes.
So I really come to love this character. Okay. Yeah. So Tyrion is having some sort of nightmare dream, and he dreams of Tywin and the Shrouded Lord, who I looked up, and this is the other name for his Grey Grace. In his dream, Tywin and the Shrouded Lord are one and the same. He wakes up, he is on the Shy Maid, and he reeks of vinegar, which evidently Septa Lemore has been applying in order to hopefully stave off grayscale, because when last we saw Tyrion, he had been in the river and polluted with God knows whatever. So Halden, the half-maester, counsels Tyrion to prick all of his digits, fingers and toes, so they can establish if he has grayscale or not. Basically, if he can feel it, that's good. And Halden counsels him to look for patches of gray skin that is hardening or nails that are turning black. And if he sees those, Halden, I don't think he comes out and says amputate, but basically that is the only option. And Tyrion
didn't they say in like the last chapter that doesn't even always work too?
Yep. Yeah, because I think it's like, if it's a localized infection, I'm assuming if it's localized, that's what the amputation does. But if it has entered your system, you're fucked.
And it's kind of like, and he didn't even really give him, doesn't Tyrion at one point ask, well, how long do I have to worry about this? And he's like, well, I don't know. There's no like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
It sounds like he's going to be doing this or should be doing this for a very, very long time to ensure that he has not been infected. And even after he does all this, like, Halden is keeping his distance. And I would like us all to hold that in mind with what Tyrion does later in the chapter.
Yeah.
Believe me, I have it in mind. It is in the forefront of my mind.
Terrible.
God.
Yeah, so I'm assuming, like, I don't know how, Halden doesn't say, my guess is if you maybe a couple months, maybe you're past the danger, but it doesn't sound real good. Like, maybe this could be one of those things that's sort of lurking in the back, and it doesn't, like there are illnesses.
Reactivates.
Yeah. Anyhow, Septa Lemore appears, and she is not wearing her robes anymore. She is changed to clothes that make her look like a merchant's wife, and because apparently everyone is trying to make it less obvious that they're from Westeros, because the mood in the area is not positive about Westeros. And Tyrion, of course, has to share that he preferred her naked.
Yeah, that tracks.
Sorry.
That's something he'd say. I love it how she gives him a little hug too. Like, she's happy that he's okay. And he's this way.
She seems to have, considering she's been holed up with this asshole for forever, seemingly, she seems to have a very good attitude. I would have wanted to throw him back in the river and let him stay there, but she's
I wouldn't be hugging him. I wouldn't be hugging him after the way he's been spying on her while she bathes. Gross.
Yeah, and also after he's been in the river with exposed to God knows what.
That too.
So there's a lengthy Savas game between young Griff and Tyrion, and during this game, young Griff says that the baby that the mountain butchered was a tanner's son that Varys bought from somebody. I don't know how much I buy into this. But basically, the plan is for Nick, Aegon, and Dany to marry. And when Tyrion points out that the Mother of Dragons may not be interested in this plan, Griff appears. Young Griff is shocked, and then Tyrion makes a point of poking holes into the plan, pointing out all the places where this goes wrong. Yes.
Can I just say, adding young Griff's attitude toward marrying Dany to Quentin's attitude toward marrying Dany, the amount of entitlement that men have about Dany is infuriating. It makes me so angry. I am pissed off.
Like they feel
George is calling it out.
Fairly, she should be grateful for this opportunity. And I'm like, she doesn't need you guys.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And Tyrion, he suggests that okay, can I just say, I really don't buy that this is Aegon Targaryen. But anyhow,
yeah, I don't think
Tyrion's idea.
Do.
Yeah, I mean, there's the likelihood that Varys would do all this shit is low. But anyhow, he suggests.
Can I just say, in case some of our listeners are not hyper into fandom as we are, the character of young Griff is pretty much exclusively referred to in fandom as Fagon, as in Aegon with an F on the front for fake. So that is how fandom thinks of this character. No one really considers him to actually be Aegon Targaryen.
And yet, I think Tyrion's idea is not bad, because what Tyrion is suggesting is like what he should do. They should go to Dorne and take over things. There's all this turmoil. He talks about, he throws his entire family under the bus. He's like, Jaime is a fighter. He's not a ruler. Kevin would be competent as a regent, but he's a follower, not a leader. Tommen is a kid, and Cersei, and we know this is correct, will be absolutely terrible as a ruler. And what his point is that all he has to do, get a foothold and establish a larger army, hold off till Dany finally makes it there. And I mean, whether and he doesn't go into this, but this is me expositing, is it doesn't really matter if he's really Aegon or not. I mean, it becomes the reality of the situation. Like, but at that point, I think the idea is that he would have enough to offer her, more than just, hey, I'm here, I'm your nephew, marry me.
Right. And didn't he mention he has this sort of insightful thing where, if she feels like she needs to help you, which we know that it's because, like, George as the writer knows this, but I guess maybe Tyrion can kind of somehow surmise that might appeal to her based on how she's released. She's sort of releasing people and like helping people in these places that she's going to. Maybe sort of words gotten around that she likes to help, this kind of idea, and they call her Mother of Dragons. And it's sort of this idea that that could feed into a savior complex when he says, let her think you need help kind of thing. And I actually think that's kind of smart. I mean, what he's suggesting isn't necessarily a bad plan. It's better than his plan.
This is great advice. This is a thing, and this is a recurring thing. And sometimes you wonder if the Lannisters really feel like siblings. And then there is this one running thread with all three of them. And that is that they often give people very good advice, Cersei included. Cersei occasionally just drops some really good advice for people, and this is another one of those cases. This is very good advice, and I think that we know that young Griff is hearing this and taking it all to heart, considering what we know, the spoilers of the released Winds chapters. This hits home, but Tyrion's read on this is pretty good. What Tyrion's motives are at this point are a little tough to gauge. I mean, I think he has definitely thrown himself in with the Griffs at this point, but you don't ever really hear him discard the idea that he would like to get to Dany. So, I don't know. I don't know for sure that he is thinking, I'm just going to stick with the Griffs at this point, or what he's thinking. I mean, it will become irrelevant by the end of this chapter, but I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think he would have stuck with them, or would he have tried to ditch them?
I think I think he's incredibly bitter about his family, right? This would definitely be sticking it to them. I think it's right now, this seems like the best possible idea. And I think he's correct in that whatever they can offer Dany at this point is minuscule. I think he's right to suggest to go to Dorne. I mean, I think I could see this working.
Yeah.
I think if he felt like it wasn't working, he'd go with whoever was working more. But I think for right now, it seems like, he'd go along with it until he felt like it was too. It seems like he's trying to get to her. So, I mean, I think it's just whatever else can do that.
Well, I think he's got nothing. He knows he's got nothing, and he's trying to leverage nothing into something. And it's not. This is honestly, of this whole chapter, the most interesting, the least offensive stuff that's going on. And while this is going on, there's all this stuff with Savas, which I'm going to spare you all. But basically, Tyrion beats fake Aegon at Savas, and fake Aegon shows who he is because he acts like a spoiled little kid who, has lost a board game, and he upends the board, I find that incredibly character revealing because he's not a 5-year-old.
Yeah. Well, it's funny how Tyrion has a moment of thinking about Joffrey. I'm not saying young Griff is Joffrey level by any means. He's clearly not. But, there's an element here, too, as Tyrion's giving this advice, as he's been assessing Connington and young Griff, and as he talks about what he thinks about Dany, that Tyrion is so accustomed to dwelling near absolute power. He has been around kings and queens his entire life, and he just, number one, doesn't have the fear that probably many people would have to have that level of proximity, and he has a very good way of gauging them as like real people who act in their own interests and rationally. That is very good, and you see a lot of that on display here. Like this is actually some of Tyrion at his very best, like his very best right here. Maybe it's because he's sober, God knows, but
I'm guessing that's a large part of it. And also, I think because he's this isn't like if he were dealing with a noble woman, he'd be thinking about sex because that's what he does with women. But he's not. He's dealing with this young man, and I think he is again trying to position himself into something, and trying to figure out. And I think the way fake Aegon reacts to this game is extraordinarily revealing, and it tells Tyrion something about him too.
Yes.
All right. So unfortunately, we're going to leave Savas. Halden and Tyrion go into town. The town is Selhorus. It's in Volantis. I think that's all we need to know, right?
Yes.
To get some, because I'm not going to keep trying to pronounce these names, to get some intel. And immediately, Tyrion is focused on the sex workers at the dock. Because that is what this guy is just, I don't know. And he does know, first of all, the women are not very attractive, which he makes a point of noting. And he also realizes that these women are slaves. They're not like the women in Westeros who are, presumably getting to retain maybe some of the money they earn. And maybe there's some element of, I'm not going to say wanting, but voluntarily doing what they do. These women are not. As they're moving around the town, they learn that Dany is still in Marine. And then this, I thought was kind of interesting. They come across, he has a very long title, this high-ranking red priest named Venero, who is calling for the people of Volantis to go to war. And he is saying that Dany is Azor Ahai reborn, which is very different from what we've been hearing in other parts of Essos about her. If anyone has any thoughts on that?
No, it is interesting that he's flat out saying it here. It also makes a lot of sense, I think, that you're starting to get this kind of evangelical aspect with the R'hllor followers. I mean, I think we've pretty well established that followers of R'hllor can kind of go their own way and kind of follow their own doctrines, and they do on occasion. I mean, obviously Melisandre is off with Stannis thinking that he's Azor Ahai. But this is interesting and probably a good sign of what would be happening in the Winds of Winter.
So they go into an inn. This is Halden and Tyrion, and they end up talking to somebody named, God help me, the pronunciation, Quavo Nogaris. It's as good as I can get.
Sure.
He's a customs officer, or the customs officer for this town. And the conversation is interesting to a certain degree. This guy, Quavo, shares, there's a couple schools of thought, but basically one of them is that Dany is supposedly this horrible monster who's, and this is where we learn some of the things that have made it into common knowledge that, she's feeding children to the dragons. We know that isn't true, that she's willingly doing that, but it is happening. And also that she's supposed to be sexually insatiable. And of course, immediately Tyrion thinks about having sex with her because, again, this is where he's going. But then Quavo has a more nuanced discussion where he talks about the real problem with her is that she's trying to take down the slave trade. And he, talks about how problematic that the people of Essos find that. Their whole lives, their economy, their way of life, everything depends on the slave trade. And she is a threat to that. So we see kind of what Dany's up against.
Yeah.
And then we get into the really disgusting part.
Jesus.
I'm sorry. So
oh, no.
This is why I hate this book, or parts of this book. Tyrion, once they've sort of had this discussion and gotten this information, what Tyrion wants is he needs to find a sex worker. So he goes into a brothel where there are 4 slaves on display. And this does not, they don't sound very attractive. One of them is currently heavily pregnant. He asks for someone who could speak Westerosi. And he gets, they bring out this woman, a redhead, who they call her Sunset Girl.
That's what I couldn't figure out, because he mentions the youngest one is 16, and then he's like, oh, they bring someone else out, and she's even younger, so I was like, oh, is that what they mean, or do they mean something totally different? I'm so confused.
Maybe the 4 who are readily available and on shift, but they've got people. I don't know how this
hopefully.
works. I'm not going to
I was hoping she's older than... Oh...
And he is offended that she dares to look grossed out by him. So I'm not even talking about the dwarfism thing. This guy doesn't have a nose. I mean...
Yeah.
Also, it's just going to keep happening to him. He just needs to get over it.
We didn't talk about this, but as he's on his way from the docks to this tavern that they end up at, this guy, some sort of soldier, grabs Tyrion and forcibly rubs his head for luck because he's a dwarf.
Yeah.
Oh no.
He has a pretty bad experience, and he's thinking about how all of these prostitutes that he's passing, even though they're all middle-aged and not high-value prostitutes or whatever, how they're looking down on him, and then these soldiers are laughing at him. So he is kind of building up a bit. He's been encountering a lot of really poor treatment very recently up to this point. So I mean, as is Tyrion's wont, whenever things are going poorly for Tyrion, he's going to start punching down. And so here we go.
I'm surprised he didn't mention the grayscale to the guy who rubbed his head, because it's like skin-to-skin contact.
Oh,
well, he clearly is unconcerned with whether he's infectious or not because of what happens. But here's what I hate about him. He is constantly making note of how his appearance, his physicality, how unattractive he is. Okay. And I have a lot of sympathy there. But then he gets annoyed and upset when people react in a way that, I'm sorry, doesn't have a nose. I can't even imagine what that looks like. And, it's like he wants it both ways. He agrees to this woman. She really can't speak. She may have been from Westeros, but she doesn't speak the language. They have sex. He has sex with her, and it sounds like it's super quick and probably extremely unpleasant for her. And then I'm going to read this passage because I had to be here, so I guess I'm making you all be here. He rolled off, feeling more ashamed than sated. This was a mistake. What a wretched creature I've become. Do you know a woman by the name of Taisha? He asked as he watched his seed dribble out of her onto the bed. The whore did not respond. Do you know where whores go? She did not answer that one either. Her back was crisscrossed by ridges of scar tissue. This girl is as good as dead. I have just fucked a corpse. Even her eyes look dead. She does not even have the strength to loathe me. Okay. I'm pretty sure she has the strength to loathe him. She just knows enough not to do that in front of a customer. And then he drinks in what sounds like a short period of time, but he drinks till he vomits and vomits over the carpet. And she is upset probably because they're gonna take it out on her. And then he essentially rapes her. Now, let's talk about the fact that the maester wouldn't stay in close physical contact with him. Made a point of not being near him. He knows this.
This is comparable to thinking you'd been exposed to hepatitis or HIV and just going and having unprotected sex with someone anyway, because you can. Which is assault where we're from. I mean, that is in and of itself illegal and against the law and horrific. And he just doesn't even have a thought about it. Doesn't even care, even though it's dropped several times that people are concerned about him being contagious and don't want to touch him.
And that he may be contagious for months or years or perhaps forever. He does not give a shit. He doesn't even think about it.
I could drop kick the half maester for not saying, please don't possibly give grayscale to some poor girl. But he doesn't say anything either.
Right. It's terrible.
Tyrion has revealed himself throughout this trip to be a fairly smart guy. Maybe he thought by saying, that he had covered those bases. It's not like you're dealing with someone who's uneducated. Maybe he thought by saying, look, you're going to have to do this. You're going to have to prick each digit every day. You got to look for this. As you may not be clear. I mean, I would have thought that was fairly obvious that, you don't go.
It is.
You have to be careful about physical contact. He just doesn't care.
Tyrion understands.
And the thing he doesn't think. It's all about him. Constantly. All about him.
Yeah. And it's, I'm with you. Like the ableism that Tyrion encounters, the way that people react to him, his physical existence, I have no doubt that would just wear on a person in horrific ways. I have no doubt that just that constant abuse takes a massive, massive toll. And I realize it's not exactly the same situation, but I compare it to Brienne, who gets pretty nasty responses from everyone who sees her too. And it is beyond imagining to think of Brienne reacting to that treatment by turning around and misusing and assaulting someone else. Like it's unthinkable because that's just not how she would react to something like that. And yet Tyrion takes his poor treatment that he receives, which is unfair and unjust, and he turns around and he punishes someone else who is also innocent for it. And it is so difficult to read, difficult to take. I can understand why it happens and understand why he is this way without excusing the fact that nothing that Tyrion has experienced gives him the right to do what he just fucking did here, or what he did to the first poor girl that he slept with at what's his face's house in chapter 1 or 2. Like none of it excuses this, Tyrion. None of it.
Okay. I'm like, anyhow.
Can I just say
he goes downstairs. Go ahead.
Justice for Portia, she didn't fucking deserve the way that you treated her either.
Right.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Yep. he goes downstairs. He does pay for, the woman and also the carpet, and says not to blame her, but who knows if they understand that. He sees a man who I think we all know immediately is Jorah, who has a much prettier sex worker dandled on his lap there. She's described as having silver hair because, of course, Jorah, has his own sexual incel hangups. Tyrion is bitter because she's prettier than the one he got. And they have this consultation. They talk to each other, and Tyrion identifies himself as Hugor Hill. And the man gets up and says, "You're mine, Hugor." And basically, there's nothing Tyrion can do. And when Tyrion asks what this man is going to do with him, he says he will deliver him to the queen.
Yeah. I mean, can we just clock here? You're a fucking Mormont, thinking that he deserves prostitutes who look like fucking Dany, can also just fucking jump off up here. Jesus Christ, you guys. None of you are entitled to Daenerys Targaryen. Like, you are not entitled to Daenerys Targaryen.
Yeah, it's not a pleasant chapter. All right, before we get to the mail, any final thoughts on the chapter?
I will say. Go ahead.
No, it's really. I mean, I think the crevasse game was the nicest thing about it. That was the only thing. The rest of it just, ugh.
I think it's just more constant. Every time we see Tyrion, every time we're in his head, at least in these later books, he is constantly sexualizing every woman around him. The misogyny and the sexualization is never ending. It just does not stop.
Is the intention that he's going to be redeemed at some point? Because it seems like he's just, or is it just? It just seems like I feel like it's this thing where, are we supposed to feel like his nose being cut off and all these other horrible things happening to him are? Because it feels like not, that it isn't. Like, it feels like I don't know what could redeem him at this point.
I don't know. I mean, I think what starts to happen later in this book, we said spoilers, right? Later in this book, when Tyrion has to deal with Penny. And he has to see what life is actually like for someone with his exact same condition, but without any of his privileges, a woman who is born poor with no protection, what her life is like. He finally does begin to see behind the curtain of what his life actually is and how much worse it could have been. I'm not saying that he can be redeemed really for some of the shit that he's done, but he does finally get a little more self-awareness about it. And I don't know what would happen in a theoretical Winds of Winter, if he would continue on that vein, or if he would just end up with Daenerys and get more power and just not grow at all. I don't know. I don't really know. We'll never know, obviously. Oh, Tyrion. Jesus Christ.
I feel we say that every time.
I know.
I would like
and we get some pushback from fandom because, we're too hard on Tyrion, don't we understand what he's been through? And it's like, it is not that we do not understand what Tyrion himself has been through. He's been through a lot of shit, and he's been treated really horribly, particularly by his family, but by society in general. Tyrion has not had a great run. No one is saying that he has. But what Tyrion does with his mistreatment is turn around and mistreat other people, and that is repulsive, and I don't know what else to say about it.
I think you said it right. It's punching down most of the time.
Yeah.
It's like these people, like this woman that he has sex with, she has no choice. We don't even know if she's, of age, really. Her back, the scar tissue's whipping her. And, she's not there out of choice. It's not like she's decided, she is a slave. She doesn't have any options. And he the stuff he does to her. I mean,
because I could feel like he should have enough sense to stop and say, okay, when he was in King's Landing, he could make choices. He could make relationships with like, not with the women, but with the owner, you know, that he feels like, oh, there's some kind of, I can kind of feel out for what might be a slightly more ethical situation. Like, and here it's just, he's like, well, there aren't any other options, so I'm just going to do it anyway. It's so terrible. It's like, you know, I know, you know, I feel like in his head, he's just like completely given up, but you still doesn't give you right to do these kinds of abuses. And I don't know where, because I mean, didn't we see even a little bit? I felt like there was a little bit of this going on. I think it's been building up.
The thing that becomes so clear with the way that he treats Sansa is he is capable of feeling like real empathy for people who are in bad positions. And like, you know, like Clotho was talking about, like with Chitaya and Alaya, the mother and daughter who own the brothel that he frequents in King's Landing.
Yeah.
He has decent relationships with him. Clearly they consider him, you know, one of their better patrons, and like he tries to be nice. He cares that Cersei doesn't hurt them. You know, like he's not a monster at that point. And it's like here, it's like he even tries to pay for the rug because he doesn't want the girl to get blamed. Like there is, in a way, it almost makes it worse because he does know better. He knows better, and yet he's doing what he's doing. It's not like Joffrey, who has no, you know, conscience and does things.
Yeah,
it's different with Tyrion. Did we have any more mail on this one?
No, we actually don't. I thought that we did, but we'd actually gone over the whatever. So
if you would like to send us a message that we have something to read at the end of our next episode, we would love that. You can email us at closethedoorend@gmail.com, or you can always send us an anonymous message through our Tumblr, which is closethedoorandcomehere.tumblr.com. You do not need to have a Tumblr account to message us there. You can always add on to our question threads on the Jamie and Brienne subreddit, which is reddit.com/r/JamieBrienne. We post those threads about halfway through the month. If you start watching, we'll post them a week before we record the episode, so you can get your questions in on specific episodes or specific chapters if you would like to. And as always, we are very grateful to our patrons who help us keep the lights on Patreon. And you can find us there at Close the Door. And if there's nothing else, I guess I'm going to say I'm closing the door. Get out.